It happened exactly after. It happened exactly a week after that fruitless exchange. I hereby confirm today's close of business for the sinners. Thank you kindly. Starting now, you will all be given a maximum of 12 hours to partake in sleep and rest. The duration is subject to change. Have a good night. Faust gives the same instructions as always. In response, sinners groan and stretch like usual. Except this time, one sinner stuck out of that normalcy like a sore thumb. What now? Leave him be, Ishi. It's not the first time he's all grumpy like that, is it? And Heath, make sure to simmer down before you get in your room, Kay? All that grumbling thunder in there keeps me awake, you know. The sinners' rooms, their lodging, personal space, and cell reflect their state of mind, or so I've heard. Each room's floors, walls, and overall ambiance are shaped after the sinner's personality, and the view through the window changes depending on their emotions and mental state. Though, all I've seen were distant glimpses through the window, so I don't have all the details. The room Heathcliff enters would sometimes, actually rather frequently, emit wuthering and stormy sounds. Usually he'd snap back with a "why should I" or something like that, but he only clicked his tongue. I suppose he doesn't feel like arguing. Thanks to that, he stood in the corridor until all the other sinners, save for Faust, went into their rooms, staring down the passage with a frown. Maybe he was relieving stress this way. Oh-ho? And that right there is where the incident began. Huh? Oi, what's with all those doors down that aisle? Heathcliff pointed in the same exact direction I did a week ago. Those doorways were beyond the no trespassing line blocking the way. Heathcliff, I recommend against walking farther into the corridor than necessary. Huh, that sure makes it sound awful suspicious. There is nothing of which to be suspicious. You are better off listening to Faust. What, you keep treasures or some such in there? Faust's secretive attitude was enough to rouse his curiosity. Heathcliff, do not do it. You will regret your action. Got well emotional and gobby, eh, Miss Cleveress? It's like you're actually hiding something there. He sprinted into the dark before we could stop him. What's in there? Just as I was about to ask Faust an obvious thing to be concerned over. Ah! Heathcliff's sharp scream echoed from the unlit area far into the corridor. Dante, now is the time to take my left hand and run with me. What, huh? I won't be able to get him out in time on my own. I may be engulfed myself if I don't act quickly. Before I could process what she meant, Faust ran off in the direction Heathcliff disappeared. Ah, shuckaroonies. Wait for me. As we crossed the line and proceeded deeper into the corridor, we came across a three-way crossroads. I think I heard screams coming from the middle. However, without a moment's hesitation, Faust darted for the left aisle. Faust, I know you're in a hurry, but are you sure this is the right way? I could have sworn I heard his voice come from the center path. I know. Without elaborating further, Faust continued running. At another fork we encountered, Faust chose the right path. Right afterward, she entered the fifth door on the left side of that hallway. What is this? Right as I entered, another hall came into view. Its end was like a cliff. To be more precise, I felt some kind of gravitational pull trying to get me to fall to the end of the hallway. Heathcliff! Then I saw him. He crawled toward us with all his might from the middle of the hall, as if he might fall the moment he lets go. What the hell is all this, in this place? Even though I couldn't see much in the dark behind him, I definitely felt some presence in it. Faust, what's over... Dante, I want you to hold the knob of this door tightly. Firmly grip my hand as well. Holding my hand securely, she gradually approaches Heathcliff. This hallway isn't tilted or anything, is it? Why does it feel like we're hanging off a cliff? That is because we're in a corridor, obviously. Dante, do not let go. Reminding me to hold fast, Faust extended her other arm while holding her Zweihander. Heathcliff, grab this if you would. Are you mental? My hand will get gashed if I try grabbing the giant blade. You'll much prefer deep wounds on your palms to what you can suffer down there. Baffled, Heathcliff looked at the sword and then the darkness behind him. Bugger. Ah! Dante, pull him up. Might and main. Got it. Right as we pulled Heathcliff up. No, I'm not sure if it's even right to say that we pulled him up, but nevertheless, Faust hoisted his unconscious body by the legs and started rushing, saying that we need to return the way we came. Following her lead, I supported his arms and trailed behind, keeping his head from dragging along the floor. After burning some time... Let us say that it is fortunate he wasn't lost in a deeper area. Dante, you will have to turn the clock. Heathcliff's gonna be okay, right? Psychological damage is likely to be severe. Our work will be encumbered if he loses his mind. I didn't have a choice. Good work back there, Dante. While it is unfortunate that we have lost a portion of our limited break time to this. Faust, just what's in there? Where does it lead? Can't you tell me at this point? I've seen that stuff now. It was only natural that I want to know what resides there and what was chasing Heathcliff. Moreover, why did it never show itself to us, and why did it vanish instead of chasing him any further? These questions were driving me crazy, but alas. As stated earlier, there are limits to what Faust can elaborate. Yep, I honestly didn't expect much. The corridor, UIF. Ryoshu muttered with a cigarette in her mouth, walking past us both. She must have left her room while we were out on a rescue mission. However, Faust proceeded as if not a soul had just walked by, as if nothing was just said. Huh? You did prevent a sudden vacancy in the bus department. Though I wouldn't exactly call it a reward, I do suppose it isn't a bad idea to inform you of one thing. Oh, let me hear it. The unexpected boon had me rubbing my hands together. Right, what will she tell me now? Dante, when you traverse a road you have never walked before, what do you do? I mean, use a map, obviously. That's right. Then, even if you don't have a map, your brain will form images to serve as one. From there, on that map, there will be a starting point and a destination clearly marked. When you return from your trip, you will trace back through that way. It's so obvious I don't need to verbally answer, I just nod along. Hopefully that makes it clear enough. Huh? This is why you should remember where you've started in the corridor, especially when you open a door. Flabbergasted by the abrupt end, I blurted, Now then, Faust has grown tired. Do take care. She walked through the door before I could say something, leaving me with a riddle. Of course it would go like this. I sighed out of frustration, but not a breath of air is expelled from my pitiful clock. Still, left powerless. All I can do is boot up this electronic notebook and piece together what little information I have collected.
꿈을 꾸는 것이 두려웠던 적은 없나요? 부럽네요.
Hi, it's me. Today, I'm reading all of Dante's notes. And there's a few of Dante's notes. So this is gonna take a little bit. Alright. I'm not sure where to even start. I guess it's only natural given that I can't tell how much I forgot to begin with. Maybe I'll start by making notes whenever I run into things I don't remember. Limbus Company, the place I work for. It's a name that should be the most closely related to me, but it's also the hardest to describe for me, because they won't tell me anything. I didn't join the company of my own accord. At first, I thought the company's initiative was to find and retrieve the golden bows, but that only seems to be our department's goal, not the entire company's. From what I can tell, Each department has its own aims, and there's no common goal shared by all of them. It looks like the company has substantial backing. The company's support was never lacking whenever we got its help, though Rhodia seems to have a lot to say about the meals. Seems to be a term that sinners, seems to be a term that refers to the 12 people on the LCB's bus with me. Based on conversations I overheard, they appear to have joined the company similar to how I did, but they've been nicknamed like they're bound here somehow. I asked Virgilius about the term, but he didn't give me a clear answer. Him and his "you'll see in due time." He's shut down several questions with remarks like that. Looks like I have no other option here. I've got to write down whatever I learn. Adding a couple new discoveries about the sinners. First, it looks like sinner is specifically used to refer to those who formed a contract that I had no choice for opting out of with me, and it appears they're the only people that I can bring back to life with my clock. The sinners might be the ones who can resonate with the golden bows we seek. When we approach one, it seems to reveal the fathoms of the sinner's ego, making us experience their past or peer into their psyche. The golden bows. Small branch-shaped objects that emit a golden glow. Don't really feel like tree branches. My head gets these tingling sensations whenever I get close to one. Whatever these are, they certainly aren't your ordinary gilded twigs that were made to go after. The sinners seem to experience a kind of dizziness when they get near this thing. I hear it's called resonating, and it might be similar to how I get headaches. Once we return with a bow, Virgilius calls people from some other department to take care of it. When I asked him about this, he just said it's submitted to headquarters. The LCB. Limbus Company Bus. Its name comes from the fact we're on a bus. Feels like they didn't put a lot of thought into the name, but the other departments aren't far ahead in terms of sophistication. The team includes people like me and the ones called sinners, who are sitting at the back. Still not used to this word. The purpose is to retrieve things called golden bows from the underground facilities of lobotomy, or whatever the L Corp stood for. Don't know what golden bows are, but from the sound of it, some physical objects shaped like tree branches. We'll make a separate note when I learn more. Seems retrieving golden bows isn't the only job. We're sent to deal with any task on the way to the company's objective that needs capabilities unique to me or the sinners. I'm starting to wonder how this company came to be and why it had to be me and the sinners to do all this, but Faust won't tell me. She says the security level is too low for me to access the information, but she seems to know something more. Why does a sinner know more about the company when I'm the executive manager? The LCC. Limbus Company Clearance. Its name comes from the fact that they clear things up and out. It was formed to aid the bus team's work. Unlike the sinners, I can't revive them with my powers, which explains why the care they put into their gear and equipment. The department seems to be split into two teams. The before team, LCCB, handles scouting and preparation work, while the after team, LCCA, handles gathering and cleaning up what we've done. I haven't met them yet, but the teams seem to be divided into several sections if Virgilius's phone calls are anything to go by. Met with Effie and Saud from preliminary observation of the before team. I asked them a few questions when I had the time. I'll try to write down what I learned. Also wanted to ask what exactly they do, but the session got interrupted by Don Quixote suddenly causing a scene. Effie's side, the preliminary observation pays at least out of all before teams subsections. Judging from what I heard about the department having far more staff than the others, they might be treated as expendables. Effie and Saud died during our operation. The nests seems to be the term that refers to urban centers in the city. The city is divided into multiple sections, and each of them comprises a nest and a backstreets portion. A nest is basically under the management and protection of a conglomerate called a wing, while the backstreets aren't too big of an influence, I think. Asked Virgilius if I came from a nest or the backstreets, but he ignored me. K-Corp. Interesting that this is the first one it's talking about. Located in District 11's nest. As evidenced by our nightmarish battle at the checkpoint, K-Corp's singularity seems to give the user the capability to continuously heal, or regenerate rather, their body. Faust calls it helipoiesis. but it seems to be more commonly referred to as HP bullets or ampules by regular denizens of the city. Thanks to that, all the sinners died, and I almost fainted bearing 12 people's worth of pain at once. But those HP ampules did also help restore my melted lower half to perfectly good health. K-Corp seems to be utilizing this technology for a number of industries. According to Samjo, an employee we met at Yonbong's, the wing might also be developing food-related tech using the singularity. L Corp. Full name, Lobotomy Corporation. Its nest was in District 12, a fallen wing, its spot currently vacant. It was apparently the epicenter of a citywide event called the White Nights and Dark Days, which everyone seems to know, except for me, or would that be the amnesia? The facilities we searched through for the Golden Bows all once belonged to this now defunct L Corp. Name of the L Corp that existed in the past. It was an energy provider. It transported abnormalities, like those we've encountered, to facilities in their eggy forms and managed them in containment units to produce energy in the form of enkephalin. I'm told it once supplied energy to many other companies and wings, pretty much all over the city basically, so it must have been a pretty weighty enterprise. Then, one day, a fierce ray of light shot out of the headquarters and the company went under just like that. I even heard that after the company was gone, some tower thing appeared in its place and then disappeared sometime after. The wing's spot is still vacant as I write this, which apparently has the whole district in chaos. With its headquarters gone, the branch facilities around the city all shut down and were buried underground. N Corp. Nagel und Hammer. Located in District 14's nest. Nagel obviously means nail. Having spoken with Mersault, apparently there are two factions under the names of Nail and Hammer. Apparently, according to him, the armor-clad Inquisitors we faced weren't nearly as prevalent as when he worked for the Wing, and they weren't the majority faction during his time there. Unlike the group led by Cromer, N-Corp as a whole doesn't appear too different from other big corporations outside some rigidness. Not sure what its main business is, but some sinners seem to know a couple things about the Wing. If only they'd speak to me at all about it. R-Corp. Located in District 18's nest, what I've heard about R-Corp from its related sinners, it seemed a little different from the other wings I know so far. While most wings provide many a convenience by utilizing their singularities to improve people's quality of life, R-Corp mainly deals in armed services like mercenaries. R-Corp's power as a wing comes from the quality of its military services. Otis added that it is as important as a troop size is, much of its strength in battle will come from field experience and mental fortitude. In that sense, she says R-Corp's combatants, soldiers, employees, are like killing machines with undaunted spirits on top of being in great health. Gregor said it's common for ordinary soldiers to lose their will to fight and then flee the battlefield or fall into panic, and those who don't are the exceptions. Wonder if R-Corp runs war games and simulations or something. Hearing what R-Corp's identities have to say, the Wing has a team called the Fourth Pack with 3 subdivisions: rabbits, reindeer, and rhinos. The rabbits are all-rounders, deployed to a wide range of missions. The reindeer have surgically gained antlers that convert mental strength into physical force. While I haven't met the rhinos yet, I'm told their specialty is wreaking havoc. The Wings. Companies with the most advanced and influential technology in their districts, practically ruling over them. Supposedly they're corporate entities, but the more I hear about the Wings, the more they sound like governing bodies. Come to think of it, Limbus Company doesn't seem to fit the conventional idea of a company either. We're on a bus all the time, for one. Each wing has trademarked technologies called singularities, and uses the funds earned from them and ridiculous taxes to manage the high-class urban area inside its district known as a nest. People who work for a wing seem to be nicknamed Feathers. W Corp. Ooh, this one has 3. Located in District 23's nest. I haven't visited their place yet, but I learned a thing or two about it from conversations with the identities from this wing. W Corp seems to be operating a transit service advertised as warp trains that take passengers from platform to platform in mere seconds. Tickets for warp trains are apparently pretty costly, and I'm told the first-class ones are plain ridiculous. Shouldn't you just cut costs and drive at that point? Writing down additional details I've heard. While cars can take you anywhere, warp trains are preferred because travel by car can get incredibly complicated. Makes sense considering the procedures we went through just to get into K-Corp's nest. Speaking more, it seems the bigger problem is the roads are made inefficiently. They're so twisted and convoluted that it takes an unreasonable amount of time to travel between backstreets areas by car. Even if the linear distance is short, the road to the destination will be labyrinthine. Purportedly, there are wide open roads called highways connecting the nests, but that comes with a set of conditions and costs as well. Learned a shocking fact while talking with sinners done up in W Corp's identities. Though they didn't tell me directly, it seems that the trips on warp trains, which take no more than a few minutes from an outsider's perspective, make their passengers perceive a terribly long amount of time, dissolving their sanity and deforming them beyond recognition once the ride is finally over. Then it's the job of the cleanup agents to physically sort out the mess every time. Thank goodness we have a bus. This is all speculation based on conversations with the identities, so I'm planning to keep this information to myself. Next, we have the fixers. Sort of freelancers who take care of or help with various jobs and requests in the city. They don't work for free, of course. The whole society seems to be based around money, but I don't think I can say for sure that there are absolutely no fixers willing to do charity work, I guess. The ones I've seen and heard about were from all walks of life, too diverse for me to neatly summarize, if talking with mirrored identities counts too. Maybe it's a common career. Apparently, you can't be a fixer just because you want to. Some fixer-related identities told me that there are tests you need to pass to earn a license. Looks like fixers are graded with a number, 9 being the lowest and 1 being the highest. There's also a special color grade called being a color. Virgilius appears to be one. He has the moniker of the Red Gaze. He's supposedly pretty skilled and famous. Offices. Term that encompasses all corporate bodies, or any place of business really, that are funded by fixers. There seems to be some sort of rule that requires fixers to be part of an authorized organization of any kind if they want to work, and setting up a one-person office is apparently an option. It looks like there's a pretty wide variety of offices. Thinking back on the time we were in the back streets of District 4, D Corp's territory, the office Yuri and I belonged to might have been the most common type. Anyways, I guess I can say fixers, offices, and associations are all entities that handle requests for a price. The associations seems to refer to the large organizations that manage fixers. Each association appears to have a specific field it specializes in to account for how free and open a fixer's line of work can usually be. There's a pretty wide variety. I've seen a few associations through the identities of sinners and their mirror worlds. One major difference from freelance fixers is that they can't choose the jobs they want to take. Ooh, Sync Association, that's new. They seem to specialize in single combat and dueling requests. Though it doesn't often happen, I hear there are still cases of people trying to settle disputes with a fair and honorable duel. When a person gets involved in a duel, or has to challenge someone in it, and figures their opponent will clearly tear them a new airway, they send this association a request. Sounds like they stand in for the client or something. All I know about the association comes from what I've heard from the 7 association identities, so I couldn't learn much. Since the association doesn't get requests too often, it seems to be in charge of holding joint conferences and events with other associations as well. That is interesting. Duels are a thing in this universe, huh? This is like the first thing in this entire list that's new information to this game, and, well, aside from the stuff that we've already seen. And that's very interesting. So they handle duels and organizing all of the joint association efforts. Weird. The Liu Association. They seem to specialize in combat requests that involve groups of people. Although few fixers in the city go their lives without once ever embroiling themselves in battle, quoted from Dante. The Liu Association seems to be unique in that each individual member is equipped to deal with multiple foes at once. According to Don Quixote, discerning the two may yet be a task too daunting for novice aficionados, she also added. While the Sync Association covers one-to-one situations like duels, Liu Association handles engagements between multiple combatants. Come to think of it, most of those identities did seem to value cooperation and coordination over individual action. They also looked rather carefree, too. Gregor's Leo Association identity also told me that it was common for him to take on groups of 5 or 6 at once. He didn't forget to proudly mention that he'd whooped those kids' heinies. Another thing of note is the incendiary devices built into all their weapons. When I asked why they use fire-starting weaponry, they gave me varying answers like harmony or flow, but those honestly felt like roundabout remarks. In my opinion, it's probably because fire is effective as a means to strike foes around the target. Flames can spread, after all. The Shi Association. They seem to specialize in assassination requests. Should note that it doesn't exactly mean they're the only fixer who ever take assassination jobs. To start, requesting an associate fixer is gonna cost a fortune. Plus, the demand for assassination is awfully high in the city, so even unknown offices and obscure streets seem to get those requests pretty often. The syndicates. Seems to be what they call all kinds of gangs and organizations in the city. The term covers such a wide range of things, you can call pretty much any group of people together under a name a syndicate. The back streets. Areas of a district not included in the nest outside of the wing's domain. The residents are mostly people who can't afford to live in the nest. Each area is stacked with restaurants, local businesses, living quarters, schools, academies, and a variety of other facilities. As the name suggests, though, the roads tend to be twisted and intertwined, and there's a constant air of dampness wherever you go. Fun thing I've noticed is that the boundaries between the back streets and the nest were clearly drawn in every district I've visited, though I've only been to like 3 of them. Blade lineage. A syndicate of sword-wielding ruffians and libertines roaming the back streets. Guessing from conversations with the sinners who wore such identities, they don't seem to act or move in groups much despite belonging to a syndicate. To be more precise, they do have temporary company from time to time, but there's no strict subgroups or pecking order. It's unfortunate that half of their answers were taking the piss, so I am unable to write proper answers here. And the Kurokumo clan. A giant syndicate spread deep and wide across the back streets. They seem to be characterized by long, single-edged swords with sheaths and dark, wavy claws. They basically earn their keep by taking protection fees from backstreets businesses under the pretext of offering safety. From what I heard from the identities, they seem to be in some kind of conflict with another syndicate called the Blade Lineage. I didn't get to hear the reason. They follow some sort of hierarchy, and henchmen are generally forbidden from disobeying their superiors. There do seem to be special exceptions if Honglu is to be believed. And lastly, the city's technology. From turning rudimentary cogs to overlaying an alternate identity via a mirror, the city has every level of technology. Oh, there's a lot in here. Abnormalities. I still don't think I can exactly define what an abnormality is. So far, the ones I've encountered, for now anyway, usually had an appearance unlike any human or animal and possessed extraordinary powers. They're beings you'd only expect to see in abnormal fantasies, both in terms of what they look like and what they can do. When I tried asking Faust, she keeps saying abnormalities are entities of their own category. You shouldn't attempt to define them based on any preconceived standards, and refused to give a more detailed answer. The old L-Corp used to classify abnormalities into 5 levels. Yuri told us that L-Corp graded them based on their energy production efficiency. Limbus Company seems to use the same levels to categorize them. Ego. Shorthand for extermination of geometrical organ. I don't know what this means. Seems to be a byproduct of the Enkephalin generation once done by the now collapsed L-Corp. Reports say that the wing originally produced weapons and equipment out of the Ego for its employees to use, which doesn't really seem to match what I've seen of it. From what I can tell, the Ego of our sinners appears to work by the user making the emotions or self-identity of the abnormality their own, although I haven't experienced it myself. I've heard a few things that it feels similar to being influenced by someone else's thoughts and reflecting it to life, walking as if in their shoes. However, if you don't stop at just being convinced and get deeply engrossed in that other sense of self, you'll be taken over by what's carrying it. That killed the sinners a good few times and hurt me like hell. And Catalin seems to be what that glowing green fuel originally produced by Lobotomy Corporation is called. Mephistopheles has a device converting humans into enkephalin built into it, and the green liquid filling up the tubes seems to be just that. Enkephalin can also be stored in containers of our choice for easier transport, boxes and modules being the 2 vital examples. The old L-Corp's logo can still be seen on the bottom of some Enkephalin boxes, which probably means the wing used them as well. Reading the warning on the side, ingesting it apparently has hallucinogenic effects. Who would think to do that? A lot of people, apparently. Identities. An invention that overlays a person's identity with a different possibility from numerous other worlds. I heard Yi Sang was one of its developers, but he always blabbers things that I can't wrap my head around whenever I ask, so I don't expect to get any useful down-to-earth info out of him. The identities themselves are found via the engine of Mephistopheles. Not sure how it works, but it looks like you can't just find and grab the identities you want. Trial and error can sometimes stumble upon previously unseen versions of the sinners too. Although I can't write how exactly those identities are used in full, feels like attempting to makes me unsure somehow. Synchronizing the extracted identity with my LCB PDA and the bus window allowed me to communicate with or feel it in a way. Calling forth the image of the identity in mind, I get a sense of understanding as if I'm talking to the sinner like usual. And once the sinner and I make an unspoken agreement, the identity overrides the sinner, accompanied by the sound of glass shattering. Can't think of a more suitable description. While overlaid with an identity, the sinner appears pretty different from usual. On top of attires and weapons, their personalities can also change pretty wildly, and sometimes make me question if they're really the sinners I know. Fortunately, they seem to go back to their original selves when they're done using an identity, but prolonged use might cause small side effects like headaches or residual traces of the identity's personality surfacing from time to time. Identity uptying. I'm surprised we're getting any info about this, to be honest. A process of synchronizing an identity with this world using the thread we've gathered. It's how one brought from a different world is tuned to the sinner in ours. I guess it could be likened to binding the two worlds together. From what I can tell, a freshly extracted identity can't immediately transfer all of their knowledge and combat prowess to the sinner. That's why thread must be used to uptie the identity and make it more effective. I asked if the max uptie status, as shown on the PDA, is really the highest possible tier. I wanted to know if that meant that the sinner virtually becomes the same as the one from another world. I've been told it's theoretically the case. If an identity brought from a certain point in time of the world from where it was extracted gains more experience, training their combat skills further, for example, a new possibility can occur that allows for additional stages of uptying. I guess that's to mean identities from certain points in time could grow stronger in terms of experience and technique. I asked if events differing from our timeline happen in the worlds where the identities are extracted as time passes. I've been told that we can't know for sure and that it doesn't matter anyway. Limbus Company is only interested in enhancing the sinner's capabilities in battle, so they don't care about what happens with the identity or its world as we uptie them. Okay, makes sense. We have seen, at least with like Otis's, the results of the Smoke War were at least different in some other realities. So that one at least changes a little bit. Singularities. Simply put, some kind of incredible technology owned by the Wings. I was curious how they're different from the other technologies in the city. I guess it's the fact that singularities are monopolized by the Wings that own them. Another thing of note is that they almost seem to be outside the realm of logic or classical physics. Faust says it's unnecessary to bother thinking about the intricacies in my current state, but I don't think you can brush off flesh regrowing from a severed arm or stickers that boost your luck as things that just work that way. Wait, is my head a singularity too? That's a good question. We don't know yet. Thread. A strangely shaped object is inside, kinda like a bulb-like thing. I don't know how I should describe it. It sometimes wiggles and twitches. Staring into this glimmering thread makes me feel rather woozy. Faust wouldn't let me hold it in my hands for long, so I put it back in place and let her explain what it is. In summary, it's all sorts of possibilities woven into spindles of thread, or something like that. To be frank, I can't really call this a summary when I just wrote down what Faust said almost word for word. I couldn't understand what she meant exactly. It gives me a similar feeling to looking up at the star that appears when I wind the clock, sort of like awe. Thread spinning. Similar to uptying, it is the process of making the sinner's ego more powerful using thread. Though I do wonder, why thread spinning and not uptying again? Like identities, the ego used by the sinners are possibilities drawn from the cores of certain abnormalities for appropriate individuals. However, using ego to its full potential requires weaving together a deep understanding and well-read interpretation of the abnormality, which is why it's called thread spinning, sort of like the idiom of spinning a yarn. Thread spinning an ego enriches the comprehension of the abnormality's mental imagery, enhancing its power and effectiveness. Ego seems to be the manifestation of some kind of mental force. I guess it makes sense that forming through thorough knowledge of the abnormality in its ego is important. While Thread's role in uptying is to connect people between worlds, it seems to work like a wire to unravel the core of the abnormality in thread spinning. Faust says we might be able to thread spin ego beyond what we're currently capable of in the future, similar to upgrading and uptying identities, Gathering golden bows should allow us to decipher and interpret them in further detail. And upgrading identities, finally. When a sinner tears this identity training ticket, certain experiences seem to flow into them, or the identity they're wearing. These experiences can make them even stronger than how they were in their original worlds at the time of extraction. Well, that's what the relevant theories say, according to Faust. I get that they become better fighters with the added experience, but how does it make them physically stronger, too? I got a vague but somewhat sensible answers from Faust and Yi Sang. When an identity is upgraded using tickets, the identity's frame itself is enhanced. To summarize their explanations, upgrades exclusively improve their physical traits. The improvements are made in ways that would have worked in the original worlds the identities came from. Additionally, when an identity with prosthesis is upgraded, the materials and components of them seem to get sturdier and whatnot. Either way, upgrades are focused wholly on physical improvements. I feel like this only applies to Gregor, but oh well. I asked if it isn't possible to upgrade identities beyond their current maximum level, 30 as of writing, as shown on the PDA. These values seem to be related to the golden bows we're collecting. In addition, I was told that I'd be unable to withstand further upgrades for now. Does that mean it will be possible to upgrade them more at a later point? Come to think of it, if these level ups are only for making their physical bodies stronger, then why are these things called training tickets? I thought that was covered by upties. That's actually an interesting point, to be honest. So that's everything. In terms of new information that we got, we'd never heard anything about sync association until this, other than the fact that it exists. And it's basically just explored and explained how upgrading identities work, and it's told us that Yi Sang's responsible for the device that allows us to have identities, which is cool. And it also showed us that Dante is able to learn through the identities of other identities too, which means that the secrets of W Corp and R Corp are not safe. Specifically W Corp though, since that one seems to be getting out regardless. But yeah, that's all of Dante's notes. Thank you for listening, I suppose. It has just been 30 minutes of me talking. When it comes to how I'm going to cover content in Chapter 4, I guess I can talk about. I'm going to start by, on Friday, uploading my first impressions of the new target extraction. Sorry, the words are escaping me right now. We know about this through the announcements. They are going to be Rose Spanner Workshop identities for Rhodia and Mirsalt. The same two characters who got the first identity extraction in chapters 1 through 3 for their N-Corp identities, which is neat. In terms of the actual story, I'll probably start uploading it on Saturday, because I have to continue recording and uploading Cassette Beast because I'm almost done with that. It might take a little bit longer, but the latest I'll have the first portion of my reaction and stuff for the actual playthrough is going to be Sunday. at around 12:30 CST. That's American Central Time, in case anybody didn't know. But yeah, thank you for listening. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing because it helps me out a lot. I do appreciate it every single time. I also appreciate comments. I like reading them. I like responding to them. I like having conversation with people when I don't have to actually sit across the table from them. But I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you back again sometime soon. Bye!
우리는 야심가도 탐욕가도 아니며 그저 기술을 사랑했던 아이에 불과했지. 처음으로 우리가 숨을 쉰다고 느꼈던 그날을 기억하오. 그때는 말일세 그 숨만으로도 충분했었어. 아님 유독 그날만 공기가 맑아